Our scripture meditation for this evening is 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 7 through 12. Again, 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 7 through 12. People have an interesting way of remembering history. For some reason, historical facts sometimes takes a back seat to fabled tales or more embellished stories about past events. The more sensational the story, no matter how true or unlikely to be true, the more it etches in the minds of those claiming to know history. Repeatedly stating a false story can give it credibility to those who do not seek to separate fact from fiction. The more a lie is told, the more it is believed. For this reason, we should be ever so careful to know truth from fiction before we believe, and certainly before we spread information. Take, for example, the historical understanding about the Great Chicago Fire. As the story goes, Mrs. O'Leary's cow knocked down a lantern in a barn. Allegedly, that single act caused the fire of 1871 that nearly destroyed all of Chicago. A few hundred people died as a result. Most people believe the tales told about the fire when in truth no one knows with any degree of certainty just how the fire started. Other theories suggest some men were gambling in the barn and knocked over the lantern. Again, no one really knows. It's all a matter of speculation. What's even more interesting about the Chicago fire and its fabled storyline is that it is the most well-known fire in American history. Of course, that would not include the destruction of the Twin Towers on September 11th. Believe it or not, memories of history have not been accurate in reporting the Chicago fire as being the largest fire in American history. Actually, those from Wisconsin feel that historical accounts of Chicago's fire overshadowed the Peshtigo, Wisconsin fire. Coincidentally, both fires started on the same day, with Wisconsin's actually starting first. The competitive rivalry between Illinois and Wisconsin extends beyond the rivalry between the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. Wisconsin residents rightfully lay claim to a more infamous city fire. Taking all factors into consideration, the scale of the Wisconsin fire had a greater impact that exceeded that of neighboring Chicago. Though I am a proud Chicagoan by birth, Wisconsin claims to a superior spot in history is validated by the actual facts of the claim. Some may wonder why either city cares who gets to claim the title of having had the worst fire. To some extent, it's really irrelevant at this point. Perhaps those with a passion for history want the record set straight. Just as well, the claim can make the difference in tourism and the appeal to landmarks, museums, and books that all generate revenue from these stories. As far as you and I are concerned, it won't make a difference to us one way or the other. Note, however, there's a fire coming of such monumental proportions that neither Wisconsin nor Chicago can compete for comparison. The magnitude of this impending fire can only be described as having the intensity to dissolve the heavens and the elements with fervent heat. This references, according to Peter's account, the end of the known world at the return of Jesus the Christ. A person attempting to cope with anxiety of the coronavirus pandemic might consider this subject matter disheartening. The thought of end times does not necessarily prove comforting to a nation of people who find themselves subjected to a stay-at-home order and the restlessness caused by current uncertainty. However, the time is absolutely right to be informed of this truth because God has our attention now, maybe more than ever before. Further, the discussion of end times only alarms those without the hope of Jesus Christ. Those who belong to the Lord have absolutely no reason to fret. As a matter of principle, Peter's statement about end times served to be an encouragement to believers who heard mockers teasing them about the delayed return of Christ. He attributed their mocking to nothing short of their willful ignorance, according to verse 5. For believers, the concerns of Christ's return reminds us to be found with a lifestyle of holiness. Godly believers, according to the text, actually look forward to the Lord's return. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 7 says, "But the heavens and the earth, which now are, by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and destruction of ungodly men." Skip down to verse 10. "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up." Now verse 11 and verse 12. "Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought you to be in all holy conduct and godliness, looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of God, in which the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat." Notice the contrast between the thoughts of verse 7 and verse 12. The day of judgment brings destruction to ungodly men, according to verse 7, whereas those who live a holy lifestyle of godliness, according to verse number 11 and verse number 12, godly people actually can look for and desire the return of Christ. Consider it from this perspective. Suppose parents leave their children home alone. Of course, we want to assume the children to be of reasonable age to be left alone. The parents give a promise that upon return, either a reward or punishment will be given to each child. The children who do their chores will be taken for ice cream. The children who do not do their chores will be punished accordingly. Even though the parents do not announce the specific time of their return, the children know that their return is inevitable. Each minute brings them closer to having to answer for the chores that they either did or did not do. At the point the children hear the parents coming in the door, their feelings about their return hinges solely on whether or not the chores were done. The child or children who complete their chores anticipates that return because those children are looking forward to being rewarded with ice cream. The child or the children who do not do their chores, rather who chose to have fun, to watch TV, to play, they have every reason to be fearful. Those children know that they will not only miss the reward of the ice cream, but they will also be subject to the punishment for disobedience. This simplified example helps to clarify Peter's writing about the return of Christ. We only need to fear meeting Christ if we have ignored the admonishment to be holy and godly. Those who have so committed themselves to a life of faith and obedience anticipate the rewards of eternity. Those who ignore the biblical mandates face the wrath of God. Therefore, Peter intended for readers of this passage to govern themselves by the motivation for heaven's reward. At the same time, Christians must not allow mockers to sway them from holiness by giving doubt to Christ's return. Rest assured, he will return. And rest assured, each and every one of us will have to give an account. May God bless you to be prepared for his return. This extra time at home could be well used for self-examination. Are you holy? Are you hellish? Are you godly? Or are you godless? Both rewards and punishments await each of us. which is a matter of your choices that you make today. If the coronavirus has you scared, good. When we are scared, we might be the most sensible, and that may be the time that we think most about how we live and how we conduct ourselves. When we're scared, when we're facing death, God surely has our attention. Tune in tomorrow night for another installment of A Few Minutes with the Minister with Words from the Master.